Hey, how you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tzadivav, Daf 96 of Masechta Yevamos, friends. Who could tell me what Daf 96 talks about? Well, 96. Well, excuse me. Well, we start off with a new Mishnah, shtickle convoluted, and then we spend a lot of time talking about a little fellow who's 9 years old in a day, and he's busy doing yibum and stuff, and so we're going to learn about that. Okay, so Daf Tzadivav Mud Aleph, about 10 lines into the page, at the Mishnah. Amrulo, he said to this fellow, Mesa ishtacha, your wife is gestorben, v'nosa achosa me'avia. So he marries her sister from the same father, Mesa, and then they said that wife died, v'nasa achosa me'ima. So then he married the second wife's sister from the same mother, Mesa, v'nasa achosa me'avia, Mesa, v'nasa achosa me'ima. Basically, he married, we've seen a similar case to this, a case that was similar to this, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago even. Basically creates a whole chain, right? The first one has the same father as the second one has the same mother as the third one, the third one is the same father as the fourth one, and the fourth one is the same mother as the fifth one. So basically the first and the third and the fifth share no mothers or fathers, and the second and the fourth share no mothers or fathers. Okay, so v'nimtzu kulan kayamos, and it turns out he made a big mistake and all five of them are actually alive. So he just married five somewhat sisters, and they happen to all be alive. So muta b'rishonu v'ashlishus v'achamishus. So he's married to wives 1, 3, and 5 because they have no actual relation to one another. Ufochus tzarosein, and if he dies and he doesn't have any children, so then yibum with one of them or chalitza with one of them would make the others paturis. Also bashnu v'arvius, but he's not allowed to remain with wives 2 and 4 because kedushin doesn't work for them, right? If he's married to wife number 1 and he then marries her sister, that doesn't work, right? But wife number 3 isn't actually related to wife number 1 in any way because they have a different father and a different mother. So he could remain with 1, 3, and 5, but he cannot remain with 2 and 4. Ve'ein bias achas mein poteres tzarasa, and if he does yibum or chalitza with 2 or 4, it won't make a difference. V'im ba'al ashniya, well, I guess if a brother does yibum. Now, if he married the second wife after the first one actually really died, well then mutar bashniu v'arvius. Well then he could remain with wives 2 and 4 because they aren't related in any way. Ufochus tzarasein, and if he dies and there's no children, so then yibum with either wife 2 or wife 4 would make the other one ptura. V'asu bashlishus v'achamishus, but he would be forbidden from remaining with wives 3 and 5 because they are related to 2 and 4. Okay. And if you do yibum with wife 3 or 5, it would not make any difference because they weren't actually married to him. Fine. Bentesha shanim yom echad, a little fellow. The fellow is 9 years old in a day. Who posel aidei achin? So he could posel on account of the brothers, meaning if you have Ruvain dies and there's no kids, so Sarah needs to do yibum. She's a Yevamos, right? She has to do yibum or chalitza, and there's Shimon and Levi. Shimon's 9 years old in a day, and he right. So he says who posel aidei achin. So we'll have to see exactly what he's doing. Is he doing bia? Is he doing mimer? Whatever it is, but he's able to disqualify Levi from being able to do yibum. V'achin poslan al yado, and also the brothers are able to make him posel from ever being able to do yibum with her, with Sarah. Elahu posel tchila v'achin poslan tchila v'sof. The difference is that he is only able to posel at the beginning, whereas the brothers can be posel at the beginning or at the end. What does this mean? Keitzad, how is this? Ben teisha shanav yom echad sheba yivim to posel aidei achin. So, if you have Reuven's married to Sarah. Reuven dies, there's no kids. Shimon, who's only 9 years old in a day, if he does yibum with Sarah, well then Levi cannot, right? So he's posel aidei achin, right? He makes Levi unable to do yibum since Shimon, who's 9 years old in a day, already did Yibum with Sarah. Now, what it means that the brothers are able to be posel at the end means that even after Shimon sleeps with Sarah, Shimon who's 9 years old in the day sleeps with Sarah, if one of the other brothers does any of these things, whether they sleep with Sarah or they do mimer or get or chalitza, they will make Shimon unable to ever do yibum with Sarah. So that only applies to these brothers who are adults, right? Whereas opposed to if one of the other brothers had, let's say, done mimer, let's say, with Sarah, and then whatever. The Gemara is going to explain exactly what the case is, but let's just say this: that the Mishnah is saying that this fellow who's 9 years old in a day, he can only sort of passel the brothers if he acts first. But if they acted first and he acted second, he would have no impact on the brother who acted first. So the Gemara is going to sort of clarify ultimately what that means. Okay, fine. The Mishnah had said that if he marries wives 2 and 4 after wife 1 died, so then he could stay with wife 2 and 4. The Gemara wants to ask, but wasn't even the Reisha also talking about that? He at least assumed that wife 1 had already died when he married wife 2. So atukulu lav la'achar misas rishona. What weren't we talking about after the first one died the entire time? Amr of sheishes la'achar misas rishona vada. You know what it's saying in the Seifa is when he marries wives 2 and 4 after the first wife is definitely dead. In that case, he could remain with 2 and 4. But in the first case, she was actually alive, and therefore he cannot remain with 2 and 4, but he can remain with 1, 3, and 5. Okay. So now we get up to this fellow who's 9 years old and a day. 1 second. Is this really true? Is this really true what our Mishnah says? That this little young fellow who's 9 years old in a day, so he's able to disqualify the brothers if he acts first. But if they act first and then he acts second, he would have no bearings on the fellow who acted first. Rav Zvid taught the following: Ha'ose mimer b'yevimto, a fellow who does mimer with his yivam, and then afterwards his brother who's 9 years old in a day sleeps with, let's call her Sarah, with the yivama. So pisala, she's now pasul. So we see that even though he's acting second, he's acting at the end. It seems to be making him pasul, right? So again, so if we have a situation of Reuven's married to Sarah, and then Reuven dies, Sarah now needs to do Yibum, and there's Shimon and there's Levi. And let's read that again. So it says of Zvid Rabushaya, Osamaimer b'yevimto. So let's say Levi, right? So Levi does mimer with Sarah. And then Shimon, who's only 9 in a day, then sleeps with Sarah after Levi had already did mimer. Pisala. Shimon makes her pasul, and Levi cannot remain with her, even though Shimon, who's 9 in a day, only acted in the end. So our Mishnah seems to be saying that the minor, right, this fellow who's 9 in a day, only makes a difference at the beginning, but over here he seems to be saying that he's acting second, and it makes Levi pasul. So Amr bia pasul afilu basof. Mimer tchila pasul basof lo pasul. So the Gemara says, look, when we say that a little fellow who's 9 years old in a day, so it only works at the beginning, not at the end, that's talking about mimer, right? So if Shimon, who's 9 in a day, does mimer, so then Levi can no longer do Yibum with Sarah. But if Levi did mimer with Sarah, and then Shimon, who's 9 in a day, does mimer, that will make a difference. But Bia, on the other hand, will work at the beginning and at the end. So if Shimon, who's 9 in a day, does Yibum with Sarah, so then Levi won't be able to do Yibum with her. And if Levi did mimer with Sarah, and then Shimon, who's 9 in a day, slept with Sarah, so then that will make Levi unable to do Yibum with Sarah. So Bia works at the beginning and at the end, whereas Maimer only works at the beginning. V'akatani, but 1 second. Let me just make sure I didn't skip anything. Fine, pasul basof lo pasul uvia afilu. I think I did skip. Uvia afilu basof pasul. 1 second. Do we say that a fellow who's 9 years old in a day, if he has bia after his brother already did Maimer, it would make the brother pasul? V'akatani. But our Mishnah says, Ela shehu pasul tchila ve'in tchila basof. But it says in our Mishnah that this minor, this 9 in a day minor, he can be posel at the beginning, whereas the brothers can be posel at the beginning and at the end. Ketzad ben teisha shanim v'yom echad sheba al yivimto v'chulei. And it says, well, what exactly is this case where the minor is only able to be posel at the beginning and the adult brothers can be posel at the beginning and at the end? We then say it is bia. Right? It says ben teisha shanim v'yom echad sheba al yivimto. We're talking about bia, and we seem to be saying that by bia, even basof, it's not posel. Only the brothers are posel basof. The Gemara says it's missing a few words. This is what this is how to read it. Ben teisha shanim v'yom echad, a fellow who's a minor, he's 9 years old in a day, who posel tchila v'ein posel tchila basof. So this minor can be posel at the beginning, whereas the brothers who are adults can be posel at the beginning and at the end. When is this? B'maimer. This is by Maimer. By Maimer, the young fellow who's 9 in a day is posel batchila but not basof. Aval bia posel safilu basof. But bia will be posel both at the beginning and at the end oichit, as well as at the end. Ketzad. If you have a fellow who is 9 years old and a day, and he has bia, so he's posel for the achin, right? Meaning if he sleeps with Sarah, so then Levi will be unable to do even with Sarah, and that is whether Shimon, who's 9 in a day, has bia with Sarah before Levi, or even after Levi does Maimer. It doesn't matter. Bia is going to work both at the beginning and at the end, even for a minor. Umi islay, Maimer klal ayidei achin. But 1 second, do we really say that this young fellow who's 9 years old in a day can do Maimer at all? Umi islay Maimer klal ayidei achin. Does Shimon, who's a minor, does his Maimer work at all to disqualify the brothers? We learn in the Brisa, ben tes shanim v'yom echad. If you have a fellow, a young little fellow who's 9 years old in a day, who posel b'davar echad, he's only able to passel the brothers in one way. V'achin posel al yadu b'arba dvarim, whereas the adult brothers are able to make him posel in 4 ways. Who posel de achin b'bia, he is able to disqualify the brothers through his bia, through his cohabitation. Whereas the brothers are able to posel this young pipsqueak in 4 ways: bia, maimer, get, chalitza. So, and for the Gemara, bia de paslo ben batchila ben basof psikale. That bia, which we said it makes a difference for this minor, whether he does it first, whether he does it after Levi does Maimer. So bia, which is significant both at the beginning and at the end, so that was listed in this brisa. But Maimer de batchila pasul basof lo pasul lo psikale. But Maimer, which only works at the beginning but not at the end, this brisa left that out. It was only counting bia, which works for a minor both at the beginning and at the end. Itmar nami was also stated, Amr Yehuda Amr Shmuel, yesh lo get, that the minor can, that he can give a get to it, right? And a get is going to be shaykh to a minor by his yivama. V'chen amar of tachlifa, ba'avimi yesh lo maimer, that he can do maimer, and that's significant. Tan nam yochi yesh lo get v'yesh lo maimer divrei Meir. So in a price like this, that according to Meir, a minor can give a get to his yivama, can do maimer with his yivama. So we see that it is not just bia. The only reason why bia was listed in that price because it was listing bia, which can have an effect both at the beginning and at the end, but maimer and get would still at least work at the beginning. Misav Reb Meir yesh lo get. 1 second, does Reb Meir really hold that this minor can give his Yevama a get? Ve'otanya, but we learn in the Brayso. Also be as ben teisha ki maimer bigadol, that we make the bia of this young fellow like the mimer of an adult. Reb Meir Omer also chalitzos ben teisha ki get bigadol. And Reb Meir says that we make the chalitza of a young fellow like the get of a gadol. V'im isa, and if it's true that Reb Meir holds that a young fellow can give a get, lesne ki gito, say that it's like his get, right? Why does it say ki get begadol? Why does it say that the chalitza of a minor is like the get of a gadol? Why not say that the chalitza of a minor is like his own get, that he's able to give? So it sounds like Reb Meir would hold that a minor is not able to give a get. So Rav Huna, brother of Yehoshua, islay v'zuter. This is Rav Huna, brother of Yehoshua. Look, a minor can give a get, but it's not as stark as the get that would be delivered by, right, that would be provided by an adult. And as manifest in the fact that according to Rabbi Gamliel, who says that ein get achar get, that once one brother gives a get, if another brother gives a get, it makes no difference. That is, if one if one adult gives a get after the other adult gave a get, or if one minor gave a get after another minor gave a get. In that case, yeah, Rabbi Gamliel would say ein get achar get. Avol gadol achar koin mahani. But if a minor gave a get to his Yevama and then a gadol gave a get, even Rabbi Gamliel would say yesh get achar get, because the get of a minor is weaker, it's more shvach than the get of an adult. The Rabbana Damer yesh get achar get, and when the rabbi said that there is a get achar get, that even if one brother gives a get, if another brother gives a get, it's relevant, but that would only be on emili begadol achar gadol b'katan achar kohen. That would only be when an adult gives a get after an adult, or a minor gives a get after a minor. Havel kohen achar gadol mahani. But the rabbis would say that if an adult gave a get and then a minor gave a get, it would not make any difference. So we see that that the get offered, given by a minor is schwacher, is weaker. Okay, fine. And for that reason, Rav Meir says that we make the chalitza of a minor like the get of a gadol, i.e., it has proper strength, as opposed to his get, which would be a more shvach get, a weaker get. Okay, friends, and now we get to a new Mishnah. It says the Mishnah, top of Tzadivav Mud Beis, Pentes Shanim V'Yom Echad. If you have a little fellow who's 9 years old in a day, Sheba Yevimto, that he was Ba Yevimto. So you have Ruvain is married to Sarah. Ruvain dies. Feels like it's been a while since we had all these Ruvain Shimon scenarios. People dying, Wellwood, all sorts of things. Anyways, friends, over the next few days, we're gonna have some brain teasers again. Who's ready for Yevamos to be over? All right, let's go weiter. We don't have that much time left. Just about another 3.5 weeks, and then we learn Yevamos. Not bad. I mean, honestly, I don't know. Yevamos was hard, really hard. Whatever, let's go weiter. But the thing is, it's not like I can't wait till it's over. I'm looking forward for it to be over because I had enough of these brain teasers. But like Eruvin, by the end of Eruvin, I was done, man. I was I had enough, man. Trying to visualize these structures, I had enough. So freaking technical. I don't know, this stuff is hard, but the brain teasers I don't like very much. But there's a lot of just the hard parts of Yevamos are freaking hard. But there's a lot of geschmack stuff in Yevamos. Bentes Shanim V'Yom Echad, if you have Reuven is married to Sarah. Yeah, I'm kind of done with this stuff. Reuven, Sarah, Wellwood, I'm ready to move on. But in the meantime, it's not that bad. So, again, Reuven and Sarah. Reuven's married to Sarah. Reuven goes to Wellwood. So then, Shimon's 9 in a day. So Bentes Shanim V'Yom Echad Sheba Yevimto. If Shimon, who's 9 in a day, does Yibum with Sarah. V'achakach ba'aleh ochiv shu Bentes Shanim V'Yom Echad. Friends, you hear this? Shimon's got a brother, Levi. Guess how old Levi is? They're twins. Post al yado. So when Levi, who's 9 in a day, sleeps with Sarah, well then Shimon is no longer able to do Yibum with Sarah even when he gets older or whatever. Shimon Omer lo posa. Shimon says no, he doesn't passel anything. Alright. If you have a fellow who's 9 years old in a day, Sheba Yivimto, okay, so Shimon does Yibum with Sarah, and then Sarah had a co-wife Rivka, and then Shimon, who's 9 in a day, does sleeps with Rivka Oichit. So post al yado, so now he can no longer marry do Yibum with Sarah ever. Fine. Posa de atmo. Reb Shimon Omer lo posa. Reb Shimon says no. Ma pitom. It's he would still be able to do Yibum with Sarah in the future. Tanya, we learn a brayso. Reb Shimon lechacham. Reb Shimon says to chacham, look, chacham. In bia rishona bia shnia ena bia. He says, look, chacham people. If when Shimon, who's 9 in a day, sleeps with Sarah, right? So if you have Sarah and Rivka are co-wives, if Shimon, who's 9 in a day, sleeps with Sarah, and we're saying that is significant, it counts as Yibum, so, or at least as Bia, so then he already had Bia with Sarah. The Bia that he has with Rivka is irrelevant. And if, right, in Bia Rishona Bia Shnia in a Bia, in Bia Rishona Ein a Bia Shnia Nami in a Bia. And if we're saying that the Bia that Shimon has with the first one, with Sarah, is not Bia, well then the Bia that he has with Rivka doesn't count either, right? Because according to Reb Shimon, he treats this fellow who's 9 in a day as like a suffix. We don't know what the status is, but either if his Bia counts as Bia, so then it's Bia. If it doesn't count as Bia, then it doesn't count as Bia. So Reb Shimon is saying, look, if the Bia counted with Sarah, so then the Bia that he's having afterwards, after he's already done Yibum with Sarah, with somebody else, I mean, it doesn't, he's already done Yibum. And if it doesn't count with Sarah, so then it doesn't count with Rivka either. Masnisim Dloka Ben Azai, we say our mission is not like Ben Azai, right? Because according to the Tanakama, right, we're basically saying that according to the Tanakama, we're saying that the Bia that Shimon does counts as like a mimer, right? So when if Shimon has Bia with Sarah, and then Levi has Bia with Sarah, and they're both 9 in a day. So we say that Shimon can no longer do Yibum because it's like Maimer Acher Maimer, and it doesn't work. Now, and if Shimon has Bia with Sarah and with Rivke, so also, right? It's like he does Maimer with both of them, and it doesn't work. So now this is not like Ben Azai, Maslisin Dloka Ben Azai, the Tanya Ben Azai Omer, that Ben Azai says, Yesh Maimer Acher Maimer b'shnei Yevam v'Yevam Achas, that there is Maimer Acher Maimer when there are 2 Yevams, right? So in this case with Shimon and Levi, and Sarah, Ve'ein Maimer Acher Maimer b'shtei Yevamos v'Yav Mechad, but there is no Maimer Acher Maimer when there are 2 Yevamas and 1 Yavam, whereas Tanakam in our mission is saying that there is Maimer Acher Maimer, right, that the Bia of Shimon and the Bia of Levi, who are 9 in a day, count as if it's Maimer, right? And the Tanakama is saying that it counts as Maimer Acher Maimer, whether it's Shimon sleeping with Sarah and Rivka, or whether it's Shimon and Levi sleeping with Sarah. Either way, the Tanakama would say it's Maimer Acher Maimer, whereas Ben Azai says it's only Maimer Acher Maimer with Shimon and Levi, but it's not Maimer Acher Maimer with Shimon and Sarah and Rivka. So therefore the Mishnah cannot be like Ben Azai. Now we get to a new Mishnah, Ben Tesha Shanim V'Yom Echad. If you have a fellow, and he's 9 years old in a day, Sheba Yevimto, and he sleeps with his Yevama, right? So if you have, right, Bidyuk. Okay. So you have, Reuven. Reuven's married to Sarah. Okay. Now, Reuven dies. Wellwood. Shimon is 9 in a day. There's also Levi now. Levi's an adult. But Shimon is 9 in a day. Now, let's read the Mishnah. Ben Tesha Shanim V'Yom Echad, so you have Shimon who's 9 in a day. Sheba Yevimto. He sleeps with Sarah. Vames, and then Shimon goes to Wellwood with his brother Reuven. Choletzes V'Misabemis. Levi needs to do Yibum with Levi needs to dafka do yibum with, Levi dafka needs to do chalitza with Sarah and not yibum, because what happened? Sarah was initially married to Reuven. After Reuven died, Shimon did, right, he says, Shabal Yevimto. Shimon had bia with Sarah. Now, the bia of a fellow who's 9 in a day is like mimer, basically. So, now when Shimon dies and they don't have any kids, so now Sarah, vis-a-vis Levi, she has the zika of 2 Yevamos, right, of Reuven and Shimon. And therefore, since she has the zika of both Reuven and Shimon, Levi would not do yibum with her davka, he would do chalitza. Nosa isha v'meis, if you have this fellow who's 9 years old in a day, and he gets married, and he dies, there's no kids, arizo p'tura. So, the brothers don't need to do yibum, right, if he's only 9 in a day. Ben tesha shanim v'yom echad sheba yivimto. So if, right, Reuven died and then Shimon does, Shimon has bia with Sarah, umishehigdil, and then when Shimon gets older and he's an adult, nosa isha acheris, he marries somebody else, v'ames, and then he dies. So now you have his widow, and you also have Sarah, who he had bia with when he was a minor. Im lo yodas harishona mishehigdil, if he never had slept with Sarah from the time that he had become an adult, so Arishona choletes v'lo misyabemis. So Sarah does, right, so Levi, who's now the brother who's alive, does chalitza with Sarah, not yibum. V'ashniya o choletes v'lo misyabemis, Shimon's second wife, who he was married to as an adult, he can do either chalitza or yibum. Reb Shimon Omer, miyabem le'ezo sheyirtze v'choletz lashniya. Reb Shimon says that, look, you could do yibum with one of them, and the other one you do chalitza. Because again, Reb Shimon says that with a fellow who's 9 years old in a day, either it doesn't count like this kind of dirabanan status. Rather, either it counts or it doesn't count. And therefore, if Shimon, as a minor, when he slept with Sarah, it counted as yibum. So if that's the case, then he was married to both Sarah and the subsequent wife, which means that, so you could do yibum with one of them, but the other, you can't do yibum with the second one. But if it didn't count as yibum, so it didn't count at all, which means that then what Shimon did with Sarah when he was a minor had absolutely no bearing, which means that Sarah is still connected to Reuven, right? Still has the zika from Reuven. Shimon was irrelevant. And then there's also Shimon's wife, so now Levi could do yibum with either, technically he could do yibum with both of them, but because there's a possibility that maybe what Shimon did count as yibum, which means that they're both his wives, in which case he would only be able to do yibum with one of them. So he does yibum with one of them, and he does chalitza with the other. Echad shu ben tes shanim v'yom echad, ve'echad shu ben esim shelo hevi shtei sayros, that we treat as the same a youngin who's 9 years old in a day, as well as a fellow who's 20 years old but doesn't have 2 pubic hairs. Right? We treat both of them as though they are a minor. Says the Gemara that Rava says, Friends, do you hear what that's talking about? It's referencing a case that we had quite a while ago. A situation where you have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, and they are married to Sarah, Rivka, and Rachel. Sarah, Rivka, and Rachel are not related in any way. So now you have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi are married to Sarah, Rivka, and Rachel. Reuven dies. So now Shimon does mimer with Sarah, which means that now he's married to Rivka, and he's also done mimer with Sarah. Shimon now dies. So now Levi sort of has this yibum situation with both Sarah and Rivka. Rivka was the wife of Shimon, and Sarah, Shimon had done mimer with. So we say that Levi, Davka, needs to do chalitza with both of them. Does chalitza with both of them. because we're concerned that it might look like Shimon was married to both of them and he had two wives, and if you do Yibum, so then you might think that you can, right. I mean, if you do Yibum with both of them, so then it would look like you are, doing Yibum, you can do Yibum twice from the same household. So therefore, because it might look like Shimon was married to both of them, we say that you do Chalitza with both of them. And the Chiddush over here is that even though Shimon did not have another wife in this case, right? What happened in this case? In this case, in our Mishnah, Reuven was married to Sarah. Reuven died. Shimon, who's 9 in a day, slept with Sarah. Now, the bia of a fellow who's 9 in a day is basically the same as mimer. So basically, Shimon essentially did mimer with Sarah. Shimon then dies without any kids. And we're saying that Levi Davka does Chalitza. And even though in this case, Shimon wasn't married to anybody else, and there isn't that concern of, well, maybe you'll think that you can do Yibum twice from the same husband. Shimon didn't have any other wives, and still we're saying that Levi does Chalitza, he does not do Yibum. So let's read it inside. So Amar Rava says, Rava, the Amar Rabbanon, that what the rabbis say with the three brothers who were married to three women, Zikashne Yevamin, Michalitz Chaltze Abumilo Miyama, that when Reuven dies and Shimon does mimer with Sarah, and then Shimon dies, so Levi does Davka does Chalitza with both of them. Don't say that that's specifically because there were co-wives there. There was Sarah and Rivka, and that maybe you'll think that you could do Yibum twice in one household. Because over here Shimon wasn't married to anybody else, and still we're saying that since he had bia with Sarah, which is the bia of a minor is the equivalent of mimer, still we're saying that Levi should not do Yibum with Sarah, he should do Chalitza. Fine. Nasa, Isha, Vamez, V'chule, we said that if Shimon, who's 9 in a day, gets married and then he dies, so his wife is pater from Yibum. He's pater from Yibum, yeah. Tanina Ladatana Rabbanon. Okay, so we have a Mishnah supporting that which the rabbis taught. Shote v'ka'in. I saw a translation for shote today as, what we say? Now I can't remember. It was a good word, actually. I can't remember what it is, though. Alright, a foolish fellow. V'ka'in, and a youngin, shenasu v'mesu, that they got married and they died. Nishoseim p'turis min ha'chalitzu min ha'yibum. Their wives are p'turis from chalitza and from yibum. B'nteisha v'chulei mishehigdil v'chulei. So we said that if you have this young fellow, who did Yibum with Sarah, and then when he becomes an adult, he gets married, and then we say he then dies without kids. So with the first wife, you do Chalitza, and the second wife, you can do either Yibum or Chalitza. So now, Frakti Gemara, v'yaisu bias ben tes, ki maimer begadol v'tidcha tzar mi Yibum. So Frakti Gemara, why don't we treat the bia that Shimon had with Sarah as a minor like mimer, the mimer of an adult, and say that just like if an adult would do mimer with one of the wives, right, with one of these Yevamos, so then the other one would be pater. So why don't we say the same thing over here and say that you shouldn't be able to do Yibum with the wife that he had when he was an adult. So Amar Rav says, Rav lo asu bias bentes k'maimer begadol. So Rav says we don't treat the bia of a fellow who's 9 in this way, right? Like mimer to make you unable to do even with the other wife, right? Meaning the bia of a minor is like mimer to the extent that none of the other brothers can do yibum with this woman, but the bia of this youngin who's 9 years old would not disqualify the other brothers from doing yibum with his wife that he had when he was an adult. Shmuel Amar asu v'asu, where Shmuel says no, the bia of a 9-year-old is considered like mimer, also to the extent that you would not do yibum with the wife that he had when he was an adult. Rabbi Yochanan says like Shmuel that the bia of this fellow who's 9 years old in a day is like mimer to prevent the other brothers from doing yibum with the wife that he had when he's an adult. V'yasu, so if that's the case, then why does the Mishnah say that they would be allowed to do yibum with the wife that he had when he was an adult? Tanoi, so we say it's taka machlokas tanoim, hach tana darba achin, that the Tana from the Perek, with the 3 brothers, and then the first one died, and then Shimon does mimer with Sarah, and we say that, and then he dies, and we say that Levi has to do chalitza with Sarah and Rivka. Gazu mishum tzara, he was concerned about the tzara, right? He was concerned that it will look like there's 2 wives from the same household, and you're doing yibum with both of them, so therefore we say do chalitza with both of them. Bashmin begadol, and over there we're talking about an adult, but the fact of the matter is vuadim bekayin. That Tana would say the same thing by a youngin, by a minor, by the Homer Gadol. The reason why I was talking about an adult over there, mishum begadol koi, because it was talking about adults. V'hai Tana, whereas this Tana argues dehacha over here, svir lehi holds asu v'lo gazu mishum sorry. Right, so over here they say yes, that the mimer of a youngin is, but the bia of a youngin is like the mimer, but we're not concerned that, people are going to say that there's 2 wives here from the same household and that you're allowed to do yibum twice in the same household. No, people are not concerned that that we don't make that gezerah, and therefore we say that yes, you have to do chalitza with Sarah, who Shimon had bia with when he was a minor, but you can do yibum with the wife that he had as an adult. Vashmin b'ka'in, and we're talking about a ka'in over here, bu'adin b'gadol, but the same would apply to a gadol as well. By the kamer b'ka'in, and the reason why we say ka'in specifically the b'ka'in kai, because we're specifically talking about a ka'in. Also, Rabbi Elazar then went and he said this teaching in the Beis HaMedrash, and he did not quote Rabbi Yochanan. Sham Rabbi Yochanan ikpid. Rabbi Yochanan heard, and he got upset that Rabbi Elazar said this teaching without quoting him. Ulegabe Rabbi Ami v'Rabbi Asi. Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi came to visit Rabbi Yochanan when he was upset. Amrulei, and they said to him, Lo kachoya amaise b'Beis HaKnesses shel Tiberia. They said, Rabbi Yochanan, why are you getting upset? Don't you know that there was an incident one time in the Beis HaKnesses in Tiberia, Beneger sheyesh birosho glustera, with this plank that had at the end of it some kind of ball or something. Shenechleku bo Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yossi were arguing about it. Achikaru sefer Torah b'chamason, and what that led to was that they tore a sefer Torah because they got so angry and so heated. Karusa kadaiti chol mean that they tore a sefer Torah. Ela emesh nikra sefer Torah b'chamason. Rather, a Sefer Torah got torn, meaning it wasn't their intention, but things got so heated that in the end the Sefer Torah got torn because of it. By Yasham Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, and Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma was dar in Omar, and he said, Tamia Oni, im loya Beis HaKnesses avodas kochavim, and Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma says, I bet that this Beis HaKnesses one day is going to be a place of avodah zarah, v'chein hava. And that is exactly what happened. It became a place of avodah zarah. So Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi are saying, Rabbi Yochanan, be careful, don't be so angry, look what happens. Look what can happen. Hadar ikbid tvei. That only upsetted Rabbi Yochanan even more. Amr chavusa nami. He says, what? You're bringing a raya from a story with Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yossi, who are contemporaries. That's how you're going to, assuage my anger by saying that my student Rabbi Elazar is basically on the same level as me. That's going to get me more upset. Or legabe Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, came Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, Amalei, and Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi tried to assuage Rabbi Yochanan by saying Kashetziva Hashem is Moshe Avdo, that the pasuk says that just like the Eibishter commanded Moshe Kain tziva Moshe Yoshua, so did Moshe command Joshua, v'chein also Yoshua, and that is exactly what Joshua did. Lo heisir davar mikol asher tziva Hashem, as Moshe, he did not change anything, did not remove anything from that which the Eibishter commanded Moses. V'chi al kol davar she'amar Yoshua, ha'yomer loim, kach amar li Moshe. What do you think? That every single thing that Yoshua said, he would say, Moshe said this, Moshe said that. No. El Yoshua Yoshev v'dorish stam. V'akol yoden she'toraso shel Moshe. Yoshua would stam, he would teach Torah, and everyone would know. Where does Yoshua know from? He knows it from his teacher of Moshe. He didn't have to quote everything from Moshe. They know it comes from Moshe. After Rabbi Elazar Talmidcha, also so too with Rabbi Elazar, your student, Yoshev v'dorish stam. He teaches stam. V'akol yoden kishal chayid. But everyone knows that who's Rabbi Elazar teaching from? Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan then turned to Rabami and Rabasi, and he said, "No, you should be more like Rabbi Yaakov Baridi, right? Can't you know how to soothe somebody like Rabbi Yaakov Baridi, make him feel good, not make him feel bad?" Rabbi Yochanan, my time a kopid kulei. Why did Rabbi Yochanan get so upset that Rabbi Elazar didn't quote him? The Amar Yehuda Amar Rav. What does the pasuk mean? I will live in your tents in two worlds. Is it possible for a fellow to live in two worlds? Rather, David Melech says before the Eibishter, Ribono shel olam, Master of the world, Yiratzon. May it be the will may be your will that people should quote me, should say teachings of Torah in this world. To Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishim ben Yechai, Kol Talmid Chacham she'omid dvar shmo mipiv. Ba'olam hazeh, any Torah scholar that they quote his teachings in this world, Sivsosav Dovavos Bakover, his lips move in the grave. Amar Yitzchak ben Zeir v'itema Shimon Nazira. Ma'ikra, where do we see this pasuk? V'chikech yen atov, that your palate is like good wine. They go to my beloved in straightness. Dovev sivsei yishenim, they move the lips of those who are sleeping. Kikomer shel anovim, like a heated mass of grapes. Makomer shel anovim, just like a heated mass of grapes. Kivin shemaniach adam etzbo olav, when a fellow puts his finger upon it, miad dovev, it moves. Av talmidei chachamim, also Torah scholars. Kivin she'omid dvar shmo mipiem. Torah scholars, when you quote them in this world, their lips move in the grave. Friends, that was Daf Tzarivav of Masechta Yevamos. Well, we talked about a bunch of stuff. First, we talked about this convoluted case with all the sisters being somehow sisters' fathers, sisters' mothers, all sorts of things in 1, 3, 5, 2, and 4. And then we talked about this young fellow who is 9 years old in a day. We said that the bia of a young fellow who is 9 in a day is basically like mimer. We talked about if he could passel the other brothers at the beginning and at the end. We said that mimer only will passel the brothers at the beginning but not at the end, but bia would also passel the other brothers at the beginning and at the end. The brothers will passel the younger fellow whether it's at the beginning, whether at the end. And then we talked about different situations of if this young fellow does bia, right? He has bia with his Yevamos, and then he dies to the brothers, to chalitza or yibum with his wife. Friends, that was the Daf Tzarivav Masechta Yevamos. Hope you enjoy. Peace out.